treating others kindly is the only proper way of acting always. There's not a single case in which treating other people in an unkindly manner is appropriate. It feels good doing it. You despise someone and you say, hey, I hate you, or hey, you are an asshole, or you know what I mean. Treating others in an unkindly manner is quite instinctual and feels good in the moment because you feel like you are righteous in doing so. But the fact that something feels good doesn't mean that it points towards truth in the way that a donut feels good but is not true, in the sense of donut is bad for you, for your health and for your economics and for everything. Donut is bad but feels good. There's a difference there. And the same thing occurs with treating others badly. You should always be kind to the people around you, no matter how apparently stupid a comment they just did. That stupidity in them, even if it was true that they were stupid, which is something questionable, because maybe you are the person being stupid by considering them stupid, but assuming you are right, saying that there's someone in your environment which is less capable than you intellectually, that would not justify treating them badly, because that person is incredibly analogous to you. There was a moment in which you were 5 and you didn't know all the things you know, and you weren't as eloquent as you are currently. So why not treat that person in the same way that you were treated when you were 5 and much less capable in general?
In general, and at a very basic level, compassion is very important. I think compassion and acting in kind ways is the most important thing. I agree completely, and it's at the root of everything I write. I have social justice issues in many of my books. However, here's where it gets tricky. First of all, and this comes up in recovery from drug addiction and alcoholism a lot. I don't talk very much about the programs because we're really not supposed to. But in the programs where people are taught how to stop drinking and taking drugs, they say there's one requirement for membership in those programs. You have to want to stop. So if you have a person who's suffering with drug addiction, let's say, but they don't want to, and it's a bad thing. There's no question about it. They're stealing, they're hurting their family, they're hurting themselves, they're shooting heroin, but they don't want to stop. What do you do? What does compassion do? And another example is if someone is homeless and has mental illness, having compassion for them and being helpful might not feel good because that person might lash out and be violent and reject your help and hurt you. How do you help that person? Now, maybe you call someone, a group, a government organization or a social group to come and help them, possibly. It's also possible that a person who I have compassion for and I might want to help, I have to protect myself. They might hurt me. They might take advantage of me. In fact, I might be a little codependent and maybe I'm trying to help them at my expense somehow. Maybe they say they want money. I see a homeless person on the street. Give me $10. I need $10 to eat a meal. Well, that's $10 I'm giving up of my money. Can I afford that? And are they going to take that $10 and are they going to eat a meal, or are they going to go buy more drugs and hurt themselves? It can get very complicated. But in a general sense, I do think compassion and kindness are absolutely the most important qualities. It just gets tricky in terms of how to apply those things in real life.
The intersection between compassion and effective altruism is incredibly murky, because the non-compassionate person, we would both agree, would ignore the homeless person and just maybe say fuck you to him and move on and brag off about how prosperous his life is in comparison to that homeless person. That would be what a non-compassionate person would do. But then a person we would consider to be compassionate could do either of two things. One of them could be to go to that person and try to help him in the best possible way he can conceive of, or knowing that his energy devoted to that person is not the thing that maximizes human well-being at a global scale, because buying bed nets for Somalia is what gives the best return on the investment. Being compassionate in that situation would require you to ignore the homeless person in front of you and do a donation of all your savings to buy bed nets for small children in Somalia.
I agree. So human beings do an awful lot of thinking. We do a lot of thinking, and we have all sorts of ideas. People have all kinds of ideas about all kinds of things. And I think that if you were to just randomly pull 100 people off the street from all over the world, they would have different ideas of what it means to be compassionate. Some of them would agree that some people in Somalia deserved some kind of help, but other people would see the whole thing differently. People have different ideas about immigration. People have different ideas about social programs and about government helping people and about all kinds of things. And yet, all of those people, I'd be willing to bet if you surveyed them, every one of those people thinks that they're kind and compassionate, and they think that they're good people. Everyone thinks they're good. It's hard to come up with an answer. What do you do? This is why I don't want to run a government. Very hard. It's very hard. Yes, I want to help people, but people have all sorts of different ideas. And of course, not to get too into talking about running a government, but people pay people running for office to they donate to their campaigns and they expect something in return, even though legally perhaps they're not due anything in return. So life and society is very complex. And the notion of being kind and compassionate, even in religions, the Christianity talks about kindness, the Jesus kindness. What does it mean? There are people with different ideas, and people in different religions and not in religions, people who are just very ethical. The Ethical Humanist Society, my parents were both presidents of the New York Ethical Humanist Society on Long Island. They had ideas about being kind and compassionate. And by the way they dealt with challenges and being upset in life and helping their own consciousness to be happy, a big part of that was experiential and was with music. I just want to add, this is a little off, back to our old topic, but one way to feel better when you're not feeling good can be music. And that was, my father didn't believe in God, but he believed in Mozart. And that's what helped him when he was upset. He would listen to Mozart and he would go back to loving my mother.
I'd like to hear your thoughts on this phrase. No evil person either builds themselves or believes themselves to be evil.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely agree. Hitler thought he was a good person. He thought he was doing good. Listen, mentally ill people who are violent think they're good people. I mean, to the degree, some of them probably can't think at all. Their minds are too disturbed to think, and they're sick, and I feel compassion for sick people. But I think that the most evil people in history, Hitler, Stalin, some of the Roman emperors, whoever, I think they all thought they were good people doing good work. Yes.
And neither did they build themselves. They did not believe themselves to be evil, but not only that, there was a moment in which they were 5 and they were going to become evil, but they were not at that point. And the things that made them become evil were not subject to their choosing.